Hello and welcome to Simonheals. My name is Simon, and today I'm very delighted to welcome again, not for the first time, someone who I consider to have become a dear friend, definitely a soul sister, and just an all-round amazing person. And this is Lorrayne Ham. So, hi Lorrayne, welcome.
Hello. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, whenever we do get together, which is mostly kind of off, when we're not recording, we inevitably have some very interesting conversations, don't we? So yeah, let's see whether I haven't really prepared too much. I kind of scribbled down a couple of notes a little bit earlier, just kind of thinking ahead of what we might talk about. Yeah, I mean, how are you? Anyway, where are you at the moment, would you say?
All over the place, honestly. Up, down, all over the place. You mentioned prior to the recording that you're disinterested in the 3D reality, and I completely agree. The level of the need to distract myself from the emotional, it's not even despair, but it's the closest word I can think of of interacting with the 3D is really intense. And like you, I live in a beautiful place. It's nature, it's green, and that is my best distraction for it. I spend a lot of time with my feet on the earth, looking at my garden and talking to my garden. Um, but finding ways to do the distraction so that I can immerse myself back into joy. Because if we use our five senses and we experience the 3D, right now it's pretty weird. And we would easily be captured by it because it uses emotion to keep us embroiled. And so the best way for me to stay in a state of joy, which is where I want to be, is to interact with nature or interact with source, with my source in any way that I can that I find fun and joyful. So I've been pulling out some of my old coursework. I have taught shamanism and spirituality and Reiki like you. And so yesterday I pulled out some of my old coursework and worked with a client to introduce her to her power animal. Did a meditation that guided her to find her power animal, actually to allow her power animal to choose her, to engage her and introduce itself. So that was fun. Anything like that is fun, I'm trying to do. So what are you doing to disengage from the 3D?
I mean, yeah, definitely nature is where I turn to. And as you were just saying, I also live in a very natural place. And I love going up to the waterfall, to the beach. I live next to the beach, and yeah, just really connecting with nature, but also spending increasing amount of my time and my attention is is in connecting with source, and whether that be in meditation or during the kind of healing sessions. And less and less I find myself needing to, I think, as you were just saying, look for some kind of distraction from that. I'm actually really seeking that. And I've been meditating now, for example, it's about 15 years now since I really started in any kind of earnestness meditating. And definitely over those years, there's been a lot of the time where I've really had to almost kind of discipline myself and force myself to do my practice. But now it just calls to me. It's almost the other way around. It's almost like, oh, do I have to stop meditating to go and eat something or do some kind of chore or something like that? So yeah, I mean, the 3D world, as we call it, is feeling to be a real chore at the moment. It is, yeah. And many of the things that traditionally would inspire me and excite me just are not. And I do get a sense that this is a stage in the ascension process, or at least within my kind of process anyway. I get a sense, so it doesn't feel wrong. It's not feeling dysfunctional. I'm not even really feeling like I'm missing out on something with this. It just feels like this natural kind of falling away. And actually, similarly, a really good example of this is with food, because I've always loved food and loved cooking. I run a detox center here, so everything to do with food is very much a big part of my life. I've just got so little interest in food at the moment. It's like, oh, okay, I better eat something because I'm kind of feeling hungry. No idea what to eat. I think chocolate just about still keeps me interested. But so it feels to me like we've talked about this before, you and I, about sound and cymatics, and how everything that we experience as reality, certainly in terms of physical reality, is a consequence of the cymatic effect of the sound of, and the frequencies of all that is, of the universe. And time to time, it feels that frequency is changing. And in those, if you ever look at a cymatic experiment, there are those few moments when the frequency changes from the lower vibration to the higher vibration, where all the matter just goes into complete chaos and disarray. And I feel like we're just going through another step in that kind of frequency change, and I feel like I'm in one of those kind of phases of chaos. And yeah, as the new energies start to take form again. So
I would agree. It's interesting you talk about the meditation, and I've been meditating for, gosh, I mean, I've done it all my life, but as a practice consistently since 2000. And you're right, in the early years, it was like, okay, I got to go do my meditation. And at some point in that process, it becomes life meditation. In other words, you live your life in a state of meditation. They talk about walking meditation. Your life is a meditation. And when you get to that state, it's just an all the time thing, because the meditation is really just a way for you to connect with your source. And at some point, you connect so deeply with your source that you're always connected. Your life goes into a state of flow with your source connection. So putting in the effort in the early days really does have long-term payoff for each individual learning to live in that state, that altered state, that higher frequency elevation. And what's really interesting about the cymatic, as you were saying that, it clicked. It was like, I've known about cymatics for a long time, but just as you were talking about it, it clicked, as in these frequencies, just in the cymatic experiment where you can watch out of chaos comes form. This is what we're doing. Our humans are the creators. We're the frequency emitters that create the frequencies that bring all matter into form. And so us focusing on the divine, the joy, the things that bring us the most fun and peace have a direct effect on the matter that is playing itself out beyond our five senses, six senses if you want to add your intuitive sense. We're powerful beings, and we often waste that power. I would say most people don't know that they are powerful. The biggest challenge for humanity coming into this world is lovability and deservability. And that comes from that sense of, I am source, and then I come through this portal into this earth plane, and I'm separate and I'm alone. We feel so severed from our connection to source that we instantly believe we've been, this is where the term, why hast thou forsaken me? Why have I been shoved out of the kingdom of heaven, for lack of a better term, into this place? The challenge is that we need to remember this is the kingdom of heaven. We are the creators. We're the gods of this world, and we're creating it all. And that's a really big concept to put your mind around and to settle into. And the active meditation actually helps you to come into that place, to take dominion over. And I know that the majority of people on this earth plane are stressed beyond belief, but it is a choice. It's a choice when you can, your emotional state is your choice. You can choose to be in chaos, but you're right. We are all moving through this state of chaos to this greater truth, this greater order of things as the frequencies shift and change and elevate. Yeah. You used the word ascension, and I've used it forever. I'm not sure we're ascending to anything. We are already ascended. We are experiencing a shift in the greater field, and we are experiencing more of ourselves. That's how I like to look at it now. We're just expanding as opposed to ascending.
Yeah, I like that. And yeah, I mean, I use the word ascension because it's very current, isn't it? And kind of communicates something that we all can relate to in some way or another. But yeah, as you were just saying, I mean, the kingdom of heaven is within, and we are constantly, and I think this is really one of the big things that is happening now, is people are starting to wake up to this, that we are the creators, as you said, and God is not something that is out there, that is judging us, and if we're good, we'll go to heaven, if we're bad, tough, and I think more, I'd like to think, and certainly, in the people that I communicate with, certainly is increasingly waking up to the fact that we are the creators, and we are manifesting both our own individual realities and our collective realities as well. And the frequencies that we're talking about in terms of cymatics are the frequencies that we are generating, and as you and I both well know, that in terms of our physical body, the biggest generator of energy is this thing here. It's the heart, isn't it? The heart center. And so kind of this ascension journey as well is also the journey to the heart, and in a way from the head to the heart, isn't it? And we're constantly being enticed to look out of ourselves for our joy, for our happiness, so through consumerism and media and all these other these other aspects of life that keep trying to give us this message that we are not good enough, we're not enough, we're incomplete. But you will be complete when you have a new car, or go bungee jumping with dolphins, or whatever it is. Then you're going to be complete, And for me, in terms of the work that I do, the healing work that I do, it's very much about, helping people to remember their own divinity and their own connection with source, because our disease, our suffering is really through our perceived disconnection from source, from the creator. I say perceived because we're never disconnected. It's impossible to be disconnected, but we perceive ourselves, as you said, when we're born into this life, we forget everything, and I was just listening to, I think it was your most recent video, Lorrayne, and you really expressed so well those kind of traumas that we go through as very, very young babies and children, that really kind of program us with these beliefs that we're not good enough, that we're not loved, feelings of rejection and aloneness, etc., etc. And nearly all of us go through that, and then that just they play out again and again and again through our life, don't they? And really inform the choices that we make, the relationships that we have. So, and I know for you in the healing work that you do, that you focus a lot on that kind of programming, and then reworking that programming, to be something that's kind of healthier.
Well, what happens is we I've mentioned this in the video, but we have an arrested development. In other words, we remain in whatever the trauma is, whatever age we are, whatever decision we've made, because as you know, I've said that we are always perceiving from our perspective an event. An event could be really simple, inconsequential to the majority of people, but we perceive it from our point of view, and it becomes a trauma. We make a decision. That's what it is. It's not that we're being traumatized. We just make a decision. And usually the decision is, I'm not loved, I'm not good enough, yada, yada. And so what happens is, from that moment forward, if we're 5 and that event happens that we make the decision about, we remain emotionally 5. We could be 90 years old, and in that particular event, in that state, if anything triggers that memory within our subconscious, we emotionally react as a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old does not have the depth, breadth, and width to understand or understand all of that dynamic. And so we get triggered. This is why we're seeing what's happening out in the external world. We're seeing 5-year-olds reacting to things that are very important things to be dealing with, but a 5-year-old can't emotionally operate. And so by helping people, what I call mature up, we take that event, we take the person to the event, and we allow them to say what they couldn't say. Because usually what will happen when we're a child or in an event where we've been emotionally triggered, we shut down. Our thinking brain is severed from the process, because when you're in heightened emotionality, your thinking brain is not engaged. So we can't even think about the process or what is going on. We just emotionally imprint that into our psyche. So if you can take somebody back to the moment where they made the decision with the people that were involved, and you give them the opportunity, they have a dialogue. They actually get to have the event. They address the event. They play the event out. They re-pattern the event. They get the person. They tell the person how they're feeling. They get to hear the person respond, and they can. Oftentimes, the little one will, if it's a parent, will crawl into the lap of the parent and get the love and nurturing that they decided they weren't worthy of. And that event instantly shifts and rewrites the story. It's like we pull that event out, and then we can mature them up to their current age. In their current age, they can make decisions. They're not in emotionality, so their thinking brain is engaged, and they can then move forward. It's amazing what happens. The entire life shifts from that point forward, because they've been making decisions their entire life based on an incorrect perception. Because 99% of the time, it's an incorrect perception. Even when it's a severe trauma like child abuse, the child makes a decision about themselves, because from a child point of view, it's always about us. It's never about the other person. And when they can see and actually have their say, for instance, if it's severe trauma, the individual can go back in time and tell the person, no, this isn't right, and they can get out all the vitriol. I've had clients sit and scream and yell and cry and throw things because they needed to release the stuck trauma, And when they can do that, and they come into a state of power about the event, that event just becomes a thing that happened. Just a thing that happened. I know that personally because I've done the work and I've cleared those things, and I can look back at some of the things that people would go, oh, that happened to you? Yeah, whatever, it happened. It was a thing. It was a thing that actually made me who I am. It propelled me. And if we can look at these events and realize that they are things that we, in our spirit God self, chose an event to help us to expand the whole collective. Me going through the childhood sexual abuse actually created in the consciousness of the whole the desire for that not to be a thing, right? It filters out into the whole energetic space. It expands the whole. So we choose things not as lessons, but as a way for a being, an infinite being, to discover more of itself. We are fractals of the divine, and we are out like little feelers in the field, expanding ourselves. And when you can do that kind of deep work, and I know you do that kind of deep work in a different way through your Theta Healing, which is powerful. There's so many wonderful modalities that send frequency into the field and create a new cymatic pattern.
You're absolutely spot on there, really, with the way so many of us, in terms of our emotional maturity, that becomes kind of arrested often at an early age. And yeah, I was just thinking, how different the world would be if more people did the kind of healing work that you and I have done ourselves, and that we offer. And I certainly feel a great sense of mission in doing that, purpose and mission in doing that. Yeah. So, so something else I wanted to, just to kind of respond to what you were saying, because we've been talking about meditation and the importance of meditation, and how really, the meditation practice starts off as something that we do on the cushion, cross-legged, but as we develop that practice, it starts to become, as you say, just kind of part of life. Life becomes a meditation. And when I'm teaching meditation, I always define meditation as by having three kind of real qualities. And one is to have a focus. So when we're meditating, we're always there's something that we focus on, whether it's as simple as the breath, or a mantra, or staring at a candle, or whatever, but there's always a focus. And then the second quality is to be present. So we're constantly aware of what the mind's doing, because the mind doesn't like to stay in the present, it likes to be in the future or the past. So we're constantly vigilant of that, and just very gently we're catching the mind as it goes into the future or the past, and just kind of bringing it back into the present moment, to that focus and to that purpose of the meditation. And then the third quality is non-judgment. And for me, these three combined really define what meditation is. And so if we can take those three qualities into our everyday life. So it can be from something as simple and as mundane as brushing your teeth. So when you're brushing your teeth, you're brushing your teeth. That's it. Your focus is on brushing your teeth. And you stay present with that, and you let go of all judgment about, I don't know, this is boring or whatever it is. And for me, this as a practice also has helped me over the years to observe myself when my emotions start to, when I start to emotionally get caught up in those kind of childhood traumas and patterns. I'm like, okay, I can see what's happening here. And because of that meditation practice, it gives us space in which we can choose how we're going to respond. And I think this is one of the real values anyway of meditation, is it creates that space between the thinking and the reacting and the responding. And you're nodding, so I feel that you agree with that, and that's kind of your experience. And so for me, I mean, meditation is absolutely fundamental to living the best life that I can, and the best version of myself. Yeah. I would say, which is the name of your channel?
What I find about, yes, it is.
Living.
I wrote a book.
I was
there. I have it up on the shelf.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah. No, it's it's really appropriate.
So the channel is Living Your Best Life.
That's it.
But the book is Being. I wrote it, gosh, I can't even remember when I wrote that thing. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, maybe less. And the book was written because I was exploring these concepts of being present. Now, my meditation practice is very much I would say more Western meditation practice. So Eastern meditation practice is like transcendental meditation, coming and silencing the mind. The meditation practice that I learned, because I couldn't harness my mind from thinking, is guided meditation, meaning that we capture the first attention, as Carlos Castaneda's Don Juan would say. You capture the first attention, which is the thinking mind, and you give it something to, while your second attention, your spirit self, deepens its sense of knowing and comprehension. So guided meditation was the method that I used, and I used very visual, going into my heart space. I think there are many that use different variations of combining the two, Eastern and Western. What that did for me was allowed me, like you said, to come into the present moment and to bring my focus to this time. And I wrote the book because I was exploring all of these concepts. I realized that everything in me wanted me to be completely present in the moment. I had had a meditation practice for years, but I still didn't feel like I was here in this moment. I was always thinking about what I needed to do, who I needed to, give something to or provide something to, dinner, whatever. I was working with clients and I was finding that I was thinking about my time, not focusing on my client, but thinking about, okay, I've got this next client coming. Do I have enough time to do all these things? I'm telling this client I'm going to give them these things. I got to get on. So I was, our minds can fracture into a bunch of different areas of focus. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't giving the people, which are the most important aspect of our lives, the attention and the presence that they deserved from me, no matter what the interaction is. So now, if I'm around anyone or I'm doing an interview, I'm not thinking about anything else but what I'm right now doing. I'm being present in the moment with the people, and I'm absorbing everything about the interaction, and I'm responding from that moment, not a reaction. So yes, meditation provides that space.
And sorry to interrupt, but we talk about someone having presence. And when someone is truly present and you feel that, don't you? It's an energy, it's a vibration, it's a frequency. And this is what we mean when we say that someone has real presence. Yeah, definitely. And again, everything seems to be done to distract us from being present. You know, it's so difficult, isn't it, in this world? And back to the very beginning of our conversation today, I think I hadn't thought of it from this perspective until, you know, we kind of got into this conversation now. But I think for me, this lack of interest in the 3D world that I'm experiencing is because I'm just not interested in that distraction from presence. The presence that I feel within myself is so much more enticing to me, and it's so much more joyful as well. And as as the great master said, the kingdom of heaven is within, and it truly is. And yeah, something else that I wanted to
there are some really fun things.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please
go ahead. There's some really fun things that you can do when you actually harness the power of your mind in this present moment, in your meditative state. For instance, I can travel anywhere in time and space within my mind, within my heart space. I can experience every possibility of what humanity has created in my present moment. I can project my thought into a life, and I can live an entire life in a fraction of a second with all the emotions and all the feelings and all the visceral touching and feeling stuff within my state of presence. And I can live that. All I have to do is think, oh, I'd really like to experience what that would be like. And I can project myself into a whole reality, a whole life with all of the feelings. And I've done this. Whenever I'm feeling like, gosh, I would really like to do that, but I don't have the money or the time or the whatever. I'm not young enough, I'm not old enough, whatever. And I can go have that full feeling. So in myself, in my Lorrayne reality, don't feel lack, because it's all available. It's all available to every single one of us. There are people living lives that are experiencing everything we've ever wanted to experience. And we can, because we are all connected, we can tune to the frequency of what it would be to be a millionaire on a yacht. I mean, I don't desire that, but I could go into that life and experience that. But I experience it from the state of presence and conscious awareness and non-judgment. That state of being in a meditative, joyful, present, 0 point reality. And that's truly what we're talking about. It's bringing ourselves to 0 point and experiencing life from that. You know, you hear these terms and people go, well, what's that? How do I get there? You get there by coming to now. This is the 0 point from which everything emits from. So you brush your teeth, as the example that you used. You're brushing your teeth consciously. You know, you don't have to think, okay, I'm doing this tooth and this tooth and this tooth. You just have the awareness that in this moment, that's what you're doing. And everything is good because, you know, while you're brushing your teeth, you're not threatened. You don't have bills to pay. You're just focused on brushing your teeth.
Exactly. And, you know, when we're able to be anywhere and anything that we can possibly imagine when we go within, of course it's going to start getting boring going to the shopping mall, you know, or whatever it is that, you know, that people do in this kind of, you know, kind of 3D world, you know. So again, you know, back to the beginning of our conversation, yeah, I mean, it's hardly surprising, is it, that the kind of 3D reality that starts to lose its kind of real flavor when you have access to so much. And yeah, when I was listening to you, then there was a few things I wanted to pick up and but I've forgotten what they are now. It's getting a bit late now, so my brain's starting to slow down. Something that I kind of scribbled on my to bring up into our conversation today, which is a word that comes up so often, is the value of surrender and of surrendering as well. And I think this very much kind of ties in with what we're talking about as well, doesn't it? You know, and for me, these ascension or expansion, let's say jumps or shifts in frequency, always seem to call upon me to surrender more, to go to kind of like deeper levels of surrender. So there's often that immediate resistance, you know, and then it's like, okay, I need to let go of that resistance and just really surrender. And, you know, part of that surrendering for me is increasingly in deepening my connection with God, with Source. Really, you know, so every time I'm kind of feel challenged to, and what I mean by surrender is letting go of that perception of being in control, of thinking that I know what this life is about and where I'm going, and, you know, and then inevitably, and this is what's been happening more and more recently with these shifts in frequency, when we go into that chaos again, you know, no sooner does it seem that there is some kind of order coming out of that chaos, then the frequency shifts again and we go back into chaos, you know, and then that very human part of me goes, oh my God, what's going on in my reality, you know? And then always the solution to that, to feel good within that, is to surrender and to let go of any sense of being in control. So yeah, I really feel that this ascension, expansion, evolution process that really seems to be ramping up at the moment is very much about that, about calling us to surrender, to let go, and let go and let God, as it said. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about humans is you ask them to surrender, and they have within their DNA the memory of what surrendering would be, i.e., an army surrendering to another army, which means certain death or imprisonment. We hold that within our epigenetic code. So we're like, surrender. I mean, immediately you have this like fear response to the term surrender. And the truth is, you're not surrendering to, and you know this, you're not surrendering to any person. You're surrendering to your source, as you said, letting go and letting God. Now, what does that mean to somebody who may not really comprehend the term God or doesn't like the term God? Your source, your creator, yourself. You're surrendering to your higher knowing, to the intelligence that you don't necessarily have conscious access to, but it is within every cell of your body. You are allowing things to flow through you and from you. You are letting go of your mind's control over your reality, and you are letting something greater than your conscious self to take the lead. We don't want to allow anything to guide us or teach us, really. We're humans are so self-focused. Even those that are out doing for everyone else, they do for everyone else because it makes them feel good. So it's always looking at it from us because we are the all. I play games with myself sometimes and think, okay, I'm it. I'm God, I'm source, and I'm looking out on this reality, and what I see out in front of me is real. But everything that my focus and attention is not on is collapsed. There's a term in physics for this, but I can't recall it right now. But it's like the only thing that exists is what we are focusing and putting our attention on. Everything else is a potentiality in the field, but is not accessible in this moment. And these are the fun games you can play with yourself when you've moved out of the need to control reality. And like you said, we can go within. We're existing from the inside out instead of the outside in. And this is what meditation practice, this practice of bringing yourself to the present, gives you access to. When you're running around and responding, or more accurately reacting, you're not in a state of response, you're in a state of reaction. You're allowing everything external of you to dictate how you're feeling. But when you can come to this state of absolute presence from this moment, you've trained yourself, you have that space, you accurately respond in kind to, or you don't, or you choose not to, but you have the awareness to be able to do that. You're in response. The term responsibility means ability to respond. It doesn't mean you're burdened. It means I can respond. I can make a choice based on what is being presented to me. It's brilliant. And we humans have, by design, muddled everything up. But life is really simple. It is really about experiencing, integrating, responding, and truly being in the present moment.
And yeah, absolutely. And I would also add to that becoming the observer of being, you know, and again, this is what we learn through meditation, isn't it? That actually our role is to observe. And you were talking about quantum physics earlier, and we are the observer that creates, that brings that potentiality into being. And actually, that's all we need to do. And something that I've learned as I've got older is that I don't need to do things to make things happen. I need to observe them happening for them to happen, you know? Lorrayne, I'm just got one eye on the clock here, and I'm thinking, I always feel like I can kind of like talk to you forever. I love talking with you, but somehow we need to bring this conversation to a close. I'm looking forward to listening to it back. It feels like we've kind of meandered over so many different kind of topics in this conversation, but I've got a feeling when I listen to it back that there are actually some threads that run through this. So yeah. So is there anything that you would like to add to what we've been talking about that you feel?
Well, for the listeners,
yes.
I would add, don't stand back, step back from what is happening external from you. Step back, and from that state of observance, truly say, does this thing need my attention, or is my attention better served somewhere else, i.e., in your heart space, and looking at life a little more detached and a little more in a state of surrender and trust. This 3D world is dismantling itself. It's in that state of chaos as the frequencies shift and change, as you said, Simon. We are in the cymatic restructuring of the new frequencies. And if we get out of the way and allow it to happen, it will happen more easily for us. Don't go into reaction to what is happening out there. Stay in your state of peace within yourself. The kingdom of heaven truly is right here within your heart space. I think that's all I'd like to say.
And I just say amen to that, and aho. There's nothing more that I could add to that. It's absolutely perfect. So yeah, thank you, Lorrayne. It's been really delightful to talk to you.
Always love talking to you, Simon.
Yeah, you too. Very, very much so. And yeah, let's connect again real soon. So.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.